Okay. So what to you guys is the purpose of a screenplay? What's the aim of a screenplay?
To translate a story for filmmaking purposes, to become a film.
Good. That's a good definition. Anyone else? Or to become a play.
Or a movie. Well, that would, or a TV show, I meant.
Or like
Right.
a commercial?
Yeah, any film medium. Yeah, that's all good. It basically outlines all the elements of a story needed to tell the film or commercial or TV show. It's always about 90 to 120 pages, and each page corresponds to a minute of film time. So that's how that works out. And it all has a first, second, and third act. So we're going to break that up for you right now. And Katie, can you write it on the board? Okay, so the first act is called the setup, and it's the first 30 pages of the script. So it's the first 30 minutes. And it just sets up the situation and the characters, just how you would basically lay it out for any story, basically. But at the end of it, there's a turning point, which is where something changes. So either the situation changes, the motivation of the protagonist changes, the flow of the story changes, something changes. Probably around page 27. And then Act 2, or the second act, is called the conflict, and it's the meatiest part. It's from pages 30 to 90, so it makes up the bulk of the film. And it consists of a lot of climaxes and lulls that go back and forth, but around page 60, there is something called the point of no return, and this is where the situation intensifies, and the character has to make a decision, and if he decides to go with the situation, then there's no turning back. So that's when you really grab the audience's attention and just go with the rest of the film, hopefully. And then the third act is called the climax, and it's the last 30 pages. So this consists of two parts. One is the final climax of the story, and then the second part is where all the loose ends of the stories are tied up, so that the audience can leave feeling satisfied and understanding how everything added up throughout the film. So in order for you guys to understand this, I wanted us to break up the movie The Wizard of Oz into the 3 acts. So Act 1, can anyone tell me how it's set up, one part, and where the turning point is? So the first 30 minutes of the film, visualize.
I'm not good with time, but I think it would probably just be where you see her with her fan, right? And then I guess the end part would be the cyclone, twister, or whatever. That's what I'm looking for. Tornado.
Okay.
That's it.
So what would you say is the turning point?
I
What
guess that part
changes?
when she goes off to the land of Oz.
Okay. Anyone else?
And when the color becomes color.
Right, when it goes from black to white. Anyone else? So
I-
sorry.
No, I was thinking that another turning point could be when the Wicked Witch of the West, right? That was right. When she gets stuck into the house.
Okay. That's a good one too. I actually have the first act way before you guys do, because actually they spend about 30 minutes in the black and white world, and the black and white world does consist of a perfect first act. So the turning point is more likely when Toto is confiscated by the neighbor, who's actually the Wicked Witch, because then Dorothy decides to run away. So then it turns it into this adventure quest story. And if Toto wasn't stolen, then she would have never run away, and the whole colorful world would have never happened. But what you're saying about the tornado in the second, and how that leads to the colorful world, is actually the beginning of the second act, because that transforms them into that world. So does anyone want to do the second act? What's the point of no return in it? I mean, we know there's lots of climaxes and lulls throughout. You can visualize them. But can anyone pick up the point of no return?
When she starts on the yellow brick road.
But the point of no return is around page 60, so it'd be about an hour into the film. And it's where
the wizard.
Right, okay, so she meets the wizard. Good. Anything specific?
When he tells her she has to go not the witch.
Right, okay, so when she promises the wizard that she's going to get the witch's broom, is basically the point of no return, because she has to do that if she wants to go home, and there's no turning back, literally. And then the third act, so the last 30 pages, can you identify the final climax of the whole thing? the ultimate intense moment.
When the witch is like, I'm melting. So like right before then.
Right. So when Dorothy's trapped in the castle, you don't know whether she's going to survive or not, and they have that what's that thing called where the time seeps out? The sand.
Oh, the hourglass?
Right, and they keep showing that, and it gets more and more intense. So that would be the final climax. And then the Wizard of Oz actually has a plot twist at the end. Can anyone pick that out? So something that you wouldn't expect to happen ends up happening.
It was a
At the
dream.
very end of it.
It was a dream?
That
Doesn't
is
she
a
like
dream.
wake up
Yeah.
or something?
A little
The
before
wizard
that.
isn't really a wizard.
Right, exactly, where Dorothy finds out that he's just a normal man. But then the loose ends are still able to be tied up because she's able to get back home in the end, like with her own will. But there is a plot twist thrown in there, which is unusual. So in terms of you guys writing your own screenplays, there's actually lots of specific formatting aspects to it that not a lot of people know about. And they're really complicated and can be really tedious and time consuming if you're actually writing one. So there's lots of programs that you can use, such as Final Draft or Celtics or Movie Magic Screenwriter, that will literally just like format it for you. You just write like, I'm gonna write dialogue now, and then it'll automatically put it there. So I just wanted to show you guys an example of the format of a screenplay. And it kind of like picks out each part. Okay, so the top part of it, you'll see that it says fade in. So every screenplay, when it begins, the very first thing it always says is fade in. And you won't see that on any of the other pages, it's just that first page right when it begins. So you'll see the scene heading says exterior, writer's store, day. So for every new scene that starts, you either write exterior or interior based on if it's outdoors or indoors. Writer's store, so you just write the location of where it is, and then you do a dash, and it says day, you just write the time. So it's never like 3 p.m. or 4 p.m. like that. It's always, midday, later that day, nighttime, something like that. And then you'll see the action written there. So that's always written in like paragraph style, and it just sets up what's occurring in the scene. And then you'll see dissolve to, so that's a transition. It could be dissolve to or cut to. There's like various different ones you could use. But that just shows how you get from one scene to the next. The character's first appearance, so anytime a character or a prop is first introduced, their name or the name of the prop is always in caps. And every time you introduce a new character, you want to have like a one-sentence explanation of who that character is, like everything that sums up their life in this one sentence. Unlike how in a story you would kind of figure that out along the way, you kind of need everything like their physical description and some aspects of their personality right up front. So then you can see the dialogue is kind of spaced center under the character's name. And the character's name always appears before their dialogue. And then the subheader, where it says the sales counter. So this is still taking place in the same store, it's the same writer's store, but instead of being on the sales floor, it's at the sales counter. So you don't have to repeat writing interior, writer's store, all of that. You can just write sales counter, and they know what you're talking about. And then the parenthetical, where it says voice over phone. So you need that parenthetical before the dialogue comes, so you know where this voice is coming from. But other parentheticals could also say, sarcastically or, happily or, laughing or something like that. That's where stuff like that comes in to let you know how the character is saying the lines. The extension, where it says off screen, so that appears on the same line as the character because you need to know when reading it before you start saying the dialogue that this is going to come from off screen. OS stands for off screen. And then more and continued, you'll see it says there. That comes, like if you're using one of these programs, that just comes automatically at the bottom of every page, it says more. And then at the top it says continue, it'll just do that for you. And then the intercut is if you're in a scene where, for example, it's a phone conversation, you're going back and forth between characters really quickly, like every other line of dialogue, you can just write intercut phone conversation or intercut whatever conversation, so you know that it's a back and forth and you don't have to keep writing the new scene headings and stuff. So I just wanted to show this to you guys to show that it is complicated and honestly takes up a lot of space too. So 120 pages can seem really long, but it's really not that much.